Hey guys, Jake at TOMS Offroad, and I have some really exciting news to share with you. We just released our triangulated rear four-link suspension. As we all know, the Early Bronco came with a standard leaf spring rear suspension. If you're doing a very high-end build or you want the ultimate in drivability, the leaf springs do leave something to be desired. They're a harsher ride. No matter what you do, even if you add upgraded shocks, you're still gonna get those characteristics of a leaf spring suspension. So a lot of guys have chose to do a four-link suspension in the rear. You see that with a lot of the high-end chassis that are now on the market. At TOMS Offroad, we wanted to be able to offer something to the do-it-yourselfer who has the desire to have an ultimate suspension, but yet be able to install it themselves. So we developed a triangulated rear four-link suspension that works with the Early Bronco OE frame. This suspension has a integrated front frame bracket that allows you to mount your upper and lower links, as well as a front tubular radius arm, if that's the direction you want to go. It comes with all the bracketry necessary to mount to your factory Early Bronco 9-inch rear housing, or we do offer a fully welded 9-inch rear housing with all brackets installed as well as the top truss. All the components are made right here in the United States. They're made out of 1/4-inch steel plate, and we have upper and lower DOM links that are 1/4-inch wall as well. Like many other TOMS Offroad kits, this is gonna come with all necessary mounting hardware. It's grade A, top quality components. So that's another way that is gonna make this a seamless transition for those of you that are looking for a rear triangulated suspension. Some of the cool features are our upper links are fully adjustable on the bracketry where it mounts the frame. So depending upon your lift height, you can adjust your roll axis. You can have a different anti-squat based on what lift application you end up running. The kit does come with the upper coil towers as well as lower coil mounts to run a coil-over suspension. We do have a lot of specs based on our findings and our testings over the last 2 years of what coilovers we run, what starting weights to start out with your coil springs. This kit has a lot of great features and is able to provide the do-it-yourselfer with a high-end suspension components. Obviously, all of us are looking for in an Early Bronco. So a few things that set our four-link kit apart from some of the others you may see on the market are all of our brackets were designed with the thought process of the user in mind. So everything is designed to be installed as simply as possible. Our center bracket that mounts your front, your upper and lower links is all integral, so it's one single bracket. It also allows you to mount our tubular radius arms to the front. It utilizes a factory drain hole in the bottom of the frame to locate that bracket, so it reduces the amount of measuring and work that the end user is going to be required to do. So basically you can get those in place, tack them to your factory frame rail, and at that point, then you can move rearward. This is where we have a full diagram, 3D CAD drawing that gives you the specs needed to set up your rear differential. If you don't feel comfortable welding all the brackets onto your rear differential, at TOMS Offroad, we do offer a fully welded housing. So it'll come with the truss, the diff side brackets for both upper and lower links, the lower shock mounts, everything pre-welded, ready to go. It's something that I would recommend if you do not feel comfortable doing so, because as you weld these brackets onto a housing, you always risk the potential for warping the housing. So when we're doing it, we have a jig, we run a solid bar through the housing, bolt the housing down to our jig to prevent any tube bending or any warpage due to the heat when welding. One of the really cool features is we do have the coilover upper towers. Now these towers are designed to fit without cutting into the factory body as long as you have a 2-inch body lift. So on our triangulated four-link kit, we use a 2-inch quarter wall DOM tubing for the lower link. Obviously that's going to be more than enough for every application. And then our upper link is a 1.5-inch quarter wall DOM tubing as well. And then they have the weld bungs welded in with plenty thread to engage the TMR joints. So with our upper and lower links, they do have a left-hand thread weld bung at one end and a right-hand thread weld bung at the other end, which makes it extremely easy during the adjustment process. So you can just thread the bar. There's already machined flat surfaces for you to put a open and adjustable wrench on, or a wrench that fits that area. And then it's as easy as backing off the jam nuts. Twisting the bar one direction will either lengthen that link or shorten that length. For the joints, we went with the TMR lifetime joint. We feel like they make one of the best joints on the market. They have the bronze sleeve, they're fully forged joint, they're serviceable. Really excited to be able to have those joints be part of this kit that we offer at TOMS Offroad. There are a few things to take into consideration if you're thinking about doing a triangulated four-link suspension for an early model Bronco. You're gonna gain drivability, you're gonna gain on-road characteristics, off-road performance. but it is a lot of work. One great thing about our kit is we try to make it as easy as possible for the weekend warrior to put it in and install it. However, it still does require you to remove all factory rear suspension brackets, your upper shock mounts, your leaf spring mounts, your shackle mounts. You're gonna clean the frame. You really need to be able to weld, fabricate to some extent. With our integral center bracket, that takes a lot of the guesswork out because it does dowel into a factory drain hole. The fact that our upper coil towers do fit under the factory body with a 2-inch body lift, that helps as well. And then also with the fact that we have a fully fabricated housing that has all the brackets prefabricated on it, that will take a lot of the work out as well. But with a 4-link suspension and coilovers, we do not offer coilovers with this kit. We allow the customer to choose the coilover they want, whether it be Fox, Radflow, Bilstein, King. Everyone kind of has their preference. So we can source coilovers for you. We can order the coilovers based on some information you give us. But one thing to take into consideration is as you design this kit, we can get you at a great starting point. We can get you the correct valving based on corner weights that we've already taken on multiple vehicles, and we can start you off with the correct spring rate. But to get the most out of your 4-link coilover suspension, you're going to want to set your suspension up, put the coilovers in, put the coil springs on the coilovers, test your ride height, and then make finite adjustments from there. Because if you're going to all of this work to do the 4-link suspension, you're going to want to make sure your suspension is perfectly dialed so it performs at the highest level possible. Also, with a 4-link suspension, you're gonna be able to eliminate all of your axle wrap, which is great, but it does add an amount of body roll that wasn't there with the leaf spring suspension. So we do recommend a sway bar be added, as well as usually when we're doing the setup, we'll do a set of hydraulic bumps as well. It's just one thing to take into consideration when you're thinking about doing a suspension like this is obviously there's a massive amount of pros, but it does come with a lot of additional components that are required and then a lot of work as well. So with our triangulated 4-link design, the upper links are adjustable on the front bracket here. And like I stated earlier, that does allow you to adjust your anti-squat, your roll access, and have this suspension perform at its optimum conditions based on your suspension height. Ideally, this system is designed to be used from a 2.5 to 5.5 inch suspension to match our front configuration. But with the coilover suspension, obviously there's a lot finer adjustments and you can set that ride height at really whatever you desire and then adjust your front links accordingly to have the suspension perform at optimal conditions. So we've installed this suspension in multiple vehicles and tested it over the last few years because we wanted to provide a product that we know we could stand behind and we're proud of. The vehicles that we've tested in have had Atlas transfer cases, Dana 20s. Depending upon your drivetrain length, your cross member usually sits directly forward of these center brackets, and the transfer case can become extremely close to the center bracket. So it does kind of take up some of that valuable space in between the narrow factory frame rails to route exhaust or fuel lines, brake lines. So that's another thing that you'll have to take into consideration if you go with this kit. You're going to be changing a lot of the routing of your current system just so these brackets can sit flush against the inside of the frame rail. With the transfer case you're using, if for some reason you're using something that we don't typically see, maybe you're running a factory transfer case behind a 6R80 that was from a 2017 F-150, that's something that we typically don't do here at TOMS. Most of our Coyote conversions, we recommend either going with an Atlas behind a 6R80, 10R80, or keeping the factory Dana 20 because of its small compact size. But if you did do something out of the ordinary, that may be an issue you run into where you may have to modify a bracket or two. One other thing that's really cool about a 4-link is obviously the upper and lower links are adjustable, so you can set your pinion angle exactly where you need it. If you wanted to, you could push your rear end rearward just slightly to have your tires sit more perfect in the wheel well opening. But when doing so, one thing that you need to take into consideration is the upper link mount on the diff side, as your suspension cycles, can get dangerously close to this factory rear cross member. So if you decide to push the rear diff rearward, you may need to add a relief plate for this cross member. And that is a future product that we're working on bringing to market. As it sits in the factory location, you get full suspension travel without making contact with this cross member. And it doesn't make contact with, 23-gallon large capacity tanks or anything of that nature either. But if you were the type of person that wanted to get a longer wheelbase and push everything rearward, those are other things you'd have to take into consideration. Another nice feature with our kit that we developed is, since the center bracket is designed for this early model Bronco and most people out there are running an extended curved radius arm. We developed this bracket to also have the forward mounts for our tubular arms or other tubular arms on the market. So once again, if you ordered it and selected the optional add-on for the front TOMS Offroad tubular arms, you would get a set of TMR joints, just like the joints that we use in our rear forelink. You would get a set of our tubular radius arms, and that would go directly to the brackets and then mount your front differential. So remember, if you're thinking about going through all the hard work to upgrade your Early Bronco suspension and going to one of our TOMS Offroad rear triangulated forelinks, please give us a call, ask as many questions as you like. We'll try and point you in the right direction. We try and make this process as easy for everyone as possible. We can get you lined out with our corner weights. We can recommend coilovers, coil springs for those coilovers, and then also more than happy to send you all of our instructions, videos, CAD drawings on stuff so you can see how the rear brackets are welded on, you can see how the front brackets are mounted, and all the work that goes into a suspension like this. But if you're gonna make that decision, just remember there's a lot of things to take into consideration, and I feel like the pros outweigh the cons, but it's something that you're gonna have to make that decision for yourself and know that the end result is gonna be well worth it, but it is gonna come with a lot of work and a lot of planning appropriately and other add-ons to make the suspension function the way it should be. And yes, for all of you that have already been asking, a front coilover conversion kit is coming very soon, so please make sure you're following us on all of our socials. Keep checking back at tomsoffroad.com and you should see something very soon. Feel free to give us a call, ask for any of our techs, we can walk you through this. We'll let you know when the next phase is available.